Hey everyone, Worm Empire back at you. Once again, it's been a little while. Thanks for waiting for me. This is the sock bin. I don't know if you can see the droplets at the underside of the plastic there, but to me that's a good sign because that means it got hot and I'm trying to start a big old party and breed some worms in here. Mushrooms. Check that out. Some mushrooms growing. And some are starting. So that means there's a fungal process starting, which is good. The reason why I like seeing all this moisture on the plastic is because if this gets hot and it warms up, the worms like to breed in that situation. And I only put maybe 100 worms in here. I don't know how long ago, just over a month ago. But I gave it a good feeding last time. There's one of the socks. Bunch of worms down there. Oh yeah, the squash. I gave it a squash shell. That's... See that? Squash shell. What's going on in there? Oh yeah. They have found their way in. That's what I like to see. They're gonna start a big old party in there and mingle and breed. That's exactly what I need. Mingle and breed. That is what I need. So I'm gonna keep that spot nice and warm with some fresh scraps and keep that party going. Some short-term food like tomatoes is good. They'll eat that quick. And then some longer-term food like coffee just to mix it up and to keep the whole process going. I like to tear up the filters like this. They can, once that coffee is ready for them to eat, they will start to pick at the coffee filters, and they seem to love just rolling these filters up and living in them and making little temporary houses. As for the socks, this process is slow. Doesn't even seem like anything's happening yet, but to be fair, there's not many worms in this bin, so I didn't expect this to happen fast. It could take months before we even start to see any kind of degradation of the sock. So the cardboard around the edge here, as you can hear, is a little dry, so I'm going to try and mix some of it in with the new food setup that I did in the middle, and then with this plastic over it as it gets as the food heats everything up. Hopefully it'll start to make that bedding a little wet as well. The whole perimeter of this bin, the bedding is a little dry, so when I see that happen, I just take a little bit of it and try and move it into the middle and have it get wet from the plastic, and it just keeps the whole cycle going. Now this is the part of the video where I have questions for you out there because I don't know the answer to this. This is my collection of worm castings that I have accumulated over the last few months. The stuff that I haven't used. There's about 35 pounds of castings here. And I try and keep it a little damp. The edges are a little dry. The middle's pretty good. I use plastic to, so here's sort of the outside. Oops. Here's the outside. It kind of falls like sand a little bit. It's a little dry. But there are worms in here. I have little bits of cardboard for them to work at and try and keep this fresh. But in the middle where the plastic was, it's pretty good. It stays together and it's not as sandy. So this could use a fluff. I don't go through this very often. Yeah. You can see some worms in there. So anyways, my question is, I like to feed my castings a little bit of scraps here and there, just to keep the worms in here happy so that they're not just eating castings. I've heard they can survive off castings for a while, but that's not what my intention would be to store these. So any experienced worm farmers could please write in the comments below if what I'm about to do is worth the while. I'll take scraps. There's coffee on this, but there's tomato seeds and food and seeds in the scraps, and just bury it, and eventually some of those are going to grow. Now if those little tomato plants start sprouting all over the place, they are taking nutrients out of the castings. But my intention isn't to keep them alive and to grow tomatoes. The intention is to pull them out and throw them back in. So now in my thought process, that's a closed loop, but it allows the worms to get some extra nutrients and not just eat their castings. But there's usually trade-offs to that kind of thing. So is that going to be a net positive or a net negative for the nutrition of my castings? That's the question. Is it worth having little plants sprout in here? And not just any plants. I'm not talking about weeds, or I'm not talking about certain things, but plants that are considered to have nutritional value in and of themselves, like tomato plants and such. Just only let the plants grow a few inches tall. Just pick them out like they're weeds, and then literally just throw them back in, and it just creates its own little cycle. So that's the question for you. Hope everyone's doing well. Thanks everyone who's liked and subscribed. Please do so if you enjoy this content. Thanks for getting involved in the comments below and helping me out with this question I've got. And have a good one.